Brittany Matthews, and welcome to the Promotion Lady Show.
The Promotional Lady Show is as real as it gets. She's putting it down for you. I said you haven't seen nothing yet. The Promotional Lady Show, putting the real back into reality. Come on and join us. Yeah, the spoken truth you will see.
Please, Ms. Heather, introduce yourself to our audience today.
Hello, audience. My name is Heather Lee. I'm with Greenhaven Memorial Gardens and Life Tribute Center, and I'm also a death doula. Today, we are going to be talking about some grief recovery issues.
Oh, yes. So let's dig right into it. So please tell us more about yourself. Where did you come from? Everything.
Well, I am originally from Washington, Pennsylvania, and when I was a young child, my mom used to visit all sorts of cemeteries, some out in the middle of the field, some close to the city, and our family joke is that that's where I learned my numbers and my ABCs. We'd take the piece of paper and take my little crayon, and what was really cool about it was learning who was who and who was related to who. So I always enjoyed the history that cemeteries brought.
So most times that people will actually stray or be fearful of this conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody wants to talk about death.
So please talk about what you're doing now and how you're helping the community.
One of the things that I like to do is I like to take the fear out of death. There are typically 7 different issues on reason why people are afraid of death. And we really like to have that conversation. Once we have a conversation about what concerns you have, about whether or not you have your living wills together, whether or not you've had that conversation with your family, and educate the family so they can make good decisions. I like to think that I teach living with death left in it.
And see, that's so frightening, even for me. I mean, this is my first time talking with Heather. I'm afraid of talking about things like this, but she made it feel so inviting and so comfortable. And that's very important. Do people around what age do you recommend for people to come to you?
Any age is a good age. As a matter of fact, I teach death and dying at Columbia College as well. So thank you. So those are young women who are coming out of high school and actually headed into maybe a master's program. And we oftentimes forget about the young people who have also had a traumatic situation occur at home. Maybe they lost a grandparent, maybe they lost an aunt, uncle, mom, or dad. And so when we have that conversation, then they feel better able to cope with their grief. And then if somebody's interested in planning or understanding what their choices are, any age is a perfect age. And my concern is that if the person is not educated about the situation and thrust into the situation, they're making a lot of bad decisions.
That is so true. Now tell me what type of events that you have at your location that is, I can't, because I see it all the time.
Well, our most recent event was Wreaths Across America. And this particular event started back in 1992 when the gentleman who owned the wreath company in Maine had a surplus of wreaths, and he remembered his childhood visitation to Arlington Cemetery, and he wanted to do something memorable for the veterans who no longer are being visited. And so they took the surplus wreaths and they placed them at Arlington. Fast forward to 2018, we now have over 1,600 cemeteries, including Normandy. This is the first time that we've laid wreaths across in another country.
Wow.
And we had over 1.75 million wreaths distributed across the country.
That is a lot.
Right. In Greenhaven Memorial Gardens and Life Tribute Center, we do ours a little differently. We have our event in the evening, and then we treat our volunteers to a warm campfire and homemade cookies and cocoa.
Who doesn't love that, right? Especially when it's cold outside.
Right. Our next event is going to be on Mother's Day. And what we're going to do is honor Anybody who's coming to visit their mom at the cemetery, and we're going to have, I think we're doing cupcakes and ice cream.
That is so sweet. So you're keeping that relationship even after someone close to you has passed.
Absolutely. The cemetery has always been, or had been, a central part of the community. And it is a place where we can go back and we can pay homage and remember those individuals who paved the way for where we are today. It's really important that we remember our history so that we can plan our future. And the cemetery really does tell a story. And I have over 527 stories at my cemetery.
Wow. So Heather, you were telling us of how to heal the heart. Actually, can you heal the heart? Is it even possible?
It is. It is a series of work, though. So oftentimes individuals will say, or how often have you heard, time heals, give time.
The cliche.
Yeah. And really, the other motto is, laugh and the world
I don't know that one.
laughs with you.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Cry and you cry alone. You haven't heard that. So laugh and the world laughs with you, and cry and you cry alone. So when we talk about healing the heart, it takes action. And how do we go through that? So I always tell the individuals I work with, as a certified grief recovery specialist, our life is basically one big tube. And all of our grief events, starting from a very young age, oftentimes could be from the loss of a pet. And mom and dad are like, oh, we're so sorry that, the pet had passed. We're going to go get another one. And so we run out to the store, we get another one.
Trying to fill that void, right?
Exactly. And guess what? We've negated the relationship we had with that previous pet. And we didn't honor that.
Like it never happened. Is that what you're saying?
Right. We just move on to the next one. So from a very young age, we are taught through society to negate the loss, to move on, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And we don't know how to deal with our emotions over that loss.
And that's a very good point. Like I never would have even thought about it like that.
Right. And the other thing too is that our life, we have over 43 life events that can contribute to a grief situation. And oftentimes, many people will say, oh, well, I'm getting married. That's an exciting event, right?
Right.
Or I got a job promotion, exciting event, correct? When in fact that could too be a grief recovery issue, because now we're losing our being single in that relationship. So now we're happy that we're getting married.
We have to learn how to
move into that new person and that new position or that new event. So as a certified grief recovery specialist, one of the programs we do is with the Grief Recovery Handbook. And this is a handbook that we go through, and there are certain things that we talk about on what are the myths of grief. How do we demystify that? How can we process through all of those grief events that have accumulated over time?
One step at a time.
One step at a time. So it takes action to recover from grief. This isn't something that time is going to heal. So for an example, I can get up Saturday morning, lay around all day long, 10 p.m. comes, guess what? It's still bedtime, right?
Right.
All right. I can get up Saturday morning, do laundry, clean the house, feed the dog, go for a walk, go for a run, garden, mow the grass, 10 o'clock comes along, it's still bedtime. Did time do anything?
No.
It did nothing.
You just did something else with your time.
Exactly. And that's what it takes in order to heal, is to go through the process. And so I meet with individuals on a one-to-one basis as well as in a group situation.
Wow. And this is amazing. And how long have you been in business and been around this?
So the grief recovery method, I started this program, became certified 4 years ago through this particular process. It's an extensive process. And actually the grief recovery method was started in the 70s with John James, who he himself lost his child. And through speaking with clergy, therapists, psychologists, anyone that he could try to connect with to help him, he realized that they were speaking to him intellectually, but not heart.
Not from the heart.
And so the hole in his heart could never recover or heal. And the other thing that we do too is you'll hear people say, well, I want closure. Closure basically indicates that we put a lid on it, it's done, we're never coming back to it. When in fact, that's not the case. We deal in completeness. We complete that loss for that moment of time, understanding that it is going to come back again, maybe in a different form, under a different condition, different circumstances, and now we have the tools and the resources to handle that and acknowledge it.
So you're preparing us for our future griefs as well as healing us from our past.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that is amazing. It takes a special person to do something like that.
Well, thank you. It's an honor.
Yes, I mean, a lot of people, they don't have that gift that you have. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, definitely, you reaching for the heart is something very powerful, and someone should definitely reach out to you and to help heal them.
Exactly.
From the heart.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So tell us a piece of advice. Everyone has experienced death somewhere, one of another, close and far off.
One of the things I hear a lot is, "Oh, I'm so emotional," or I can't process the information, or it's just so overwhelming. And I had made a comment to one of my students who had said, "I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to cry." And I said, how much work is it for us to prevent ourselves from crying? It is so much more work to not cry than it is to embrace those emotions.
And just let it all out.
Let it all out.
Time.
Exactly. And no amount of product or service at the funeral home or cemetery is ever going to repair the hole in your heart. So what I do is I work with the individual's heart. We can talk intellectually about all different types of theories, concepts, and avenues, but what I do is I work with the heart. And when we heal our heart, then we have a better relationship, a better memory, and a better opportunity to embrace our own living and death.
Right, even when something traumatic has happened.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Heather, for being on my show today. And
thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. Tell us, where can we find you?
Absolutely. So our phone number is 803-419-7110. And you can find myself at Greenhaven Memorial Gardens and Life Tribute Center, as well as my associate Donald Mill, who is our family service counselor and available to take your calls as well.
Hey, thank you so much again for being a guest on my show.
Thank you.
No problem. And of course, you can find this video on TPL Network, on Roku TV, also on our new mobile app, The Promotion Lady, and of course, YouTube and all over social media. Thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed day.